Hey guys, Eileen here from Homegrown Happiness and welcome back to another video. I've been working in the garden already a bit this morning, but I thought I'd stop and show you guys what I'm doing and what's on my list of jobs today. So on the list of jobs today is planting garlic and actually prepping the garlic bed, which I've done already, but I'll show you guys what I've done. So this smallish area here is where my garlic's going to go. There were beans here which I've chopped down at root level and added in some compost and some sheep manure and some seaweed as well. So the reason that I chopped down the beans at root level is to leave the root ball in the ground to break down, and then that's going to release all the nitrogen back into the soil, and garlic is a heavy feeder so it'll love that. And then the tops of the bean plants I'm going to use as a green mulch. So here's a mix of the bean plants and some self-seeded broad bean plants that I found elsewhere, and a couple of other things like some self-seeded borage that I've chopped in here to make a green mulch. And then here are some of the beans that I harvested. So these are the different stages of maturity here. There's some really dried ones, and then there's some less. And I'm going to dry some of these a little bit more in my dehydrator, and then I'll jar those and store them for later. And then the rest I'm going to eat as fresh shelled beans. This is not all of it. I've got some more up there that I'm going to do the same thing. So this messy little garden was where I planted the pinto beans, I think it was January. And so they're looking a little bit worse for wear at the moment, so I'm going to chop these down and take the beans off. And then do the same thing, turn this into green mulch, leave the root balls in there to break down. So this bed is now cleared except for the roots that are still in there, and it'll be the perfect place now to plant something that's a heavy feeder like a brassica. I'm going to put some broccoli in here myself, and then I'm just going to add in a bit more compost and mulch. So the same thing that I did just then to the beans is what has happened here, but yeah, with the addition of manure and seaweed and compost. So I've made 2 trenches here, and I want to be able to space my garlic far enough apart so they don't compete with each other, about 10 centimetres. I'm going to attach a link down below with more information on how to plant garlic. Now the garlic's all planted, and I'm going to mulch it with the green mulch that I made before. It's important to keep your garlic well mulched because you want to keep the weeds at bay. It's such a heavy feeder that you don't want anything else competing with it. So I've talked before about what I do with my deep mulching, which is where I just usually layer compost and mulch right on top of the plants and then just plant into that. And so this is a little bit different what I've done here with the green mulch on top. But I just wanted to show you guys that either way, whichever way you do it, how quickly the plants actually break down and get absorbed back into the soil by all the microorganisms that are in there. If you let them be in there, if you're not always ruining the soil structure by digging or disturbing them, then they do such a good job. Like this little bed here was where I had beans last season, and I'm trying to put my glove on, I'm struggling. Okay, back. And I chopped down the plants, and I just put mulch and compost right on top of that, and I just want to show you guys how quickly it has broken down and how lush the soil is under there. Maybe you're not going to be able to see it very well on camera, but it's just crumbly and dark, and so much of it, and you can hardly see the bean plants in there anymore. This is on it because cats poop here, by the way. So whether you make your own mulch, your own compost, or your own mulch and your own compost, I highly recommend you do it, because people pay so much money to bring the green waste to the tip, which I just think is ridiculous. If you just let it break down here, you can use it again. So it's like free compost, free nutrients for your garden without any effort. I'm going to show you guys some of my compost piles as well. Just the difference between them. Okay, so I have your standard compost bin here that I put my kitchen scraps in when we come through that door, and then come put the kitchen scraps in here, and whatever else that I can, just little bits of weeds and chicken poo and sawdust all goes in here. And this one seems to break down quite quickly because usually the scraps that do go in here are quite small. And you can see, if I lift it up, the difference between the top, which is all green, and here underneath here that is already starting to break down. So that's the big bin. Then next to it I have a pile, just a compost pile that I've covered with some burlap sacks. And this one has bigger bits in it, and it also has whatever's in that one. When it gets too full, I will usually tip what's in there onto this pile and then start that bin again. So it means that underneath here is actually quite good compost already, which I could use. So so these two do their thing, and they break down quite quickly. Well, here at the top of the garden I have another compost heap, which is more my big pieces. If I trim these trees, I'll just chuck that on here. So this one takes quite a while to break down, but I'm not really fussed. It's not taking up much space. This bit isn't sunny, so it can stay here for as long as it wants, and it has lots of self-seeded potatoes in there. I'm just letting this all do what it wants to do. And the pile sometimes gets up to this high, and then within days it's down to this size. So even though it's slower, it's still definitely breaking down. So those are my 3 kinds of compost, and they're all different, but eventually they'll all do the same thing. I get a bit worried that people get put off making compost when they think it's too tricky or there's an exact science to it, but there's really not. As long as you have a basic mix of your browns and your greens, you can't go too wrong. And so your browns, they're carbons, they're things like dead leaves, straw, hay, wood shavings, as long as it's untreated wood. And then your greens are fresh food scraps, green leaves you've just chopped off a plant, lawn clippings. So as long as you've got a mix of those two, then you're all good. And if you do find that there's some problems with your compost, whether it's smell or it's a bit sludgy, they can usually be remedied by adding more carbon. And then the size of the things you put in your compost will also determine how fast it breaks down, which is pretty self-explanatory. If you put in a massive log, it's not going to break down. But if you chop your stalks of things into small pieces, your banana skins, your citrus peels, if you chop those all up small, then they are going to break down faster. The end of today's video. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this of me just doing my day-to-day stuff in the garden, then please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Bye. Absolutely
wish I could stay right